Hello, I'm John O'Flaherty, the B3 burner, and last we talked, it was November 20th, and my Crown Victoria had just been stolen 3 days prior on November 17th, Friday, November 17th, 2023, and there's been a whole bunch of follow-up that took place almost over the course of the following 2 months before everything was wrapped up early January 2024. So I want to go through it, and so I'm not too long-winded. I've made a rough outline of the events that followed November 20th. So after November 20th, I was just content to lick my wounds with my tail between my legs and accept the fact that there was going to be no real sense of closure in this, that the car was gone. I was not going to know whatever happened to it. It could have been parted out, it could have been joyridden, it could have been crashed, it could have been anything, like I said in the last video. Then I get a call on 3 weeks later, exactly 3 weeks later to the date that the car was stolen, Friday, December 8th. I get a call that I missed, and when I called it was the Concord PD. They said, "Hey, we have your car." I mean, I couldn't believe it. At first I was ecstatic because there was that sense of closure. There was that sense of, I'm going to get it back. The fact that anything would be wrong with it didn't even really occur to me. The police officer, who was a parking officer, said it was left parked for several days and they were towing it to the tow yard. He said as far as he could tell, there was no damage to the car, but he didn't bother opening it either. So the car was recovered by the Concord PD on Friday, December 8th. The following day, Saturday, December 9th, Shelley and I went down to Concord to recover the car from the tow yard. As it turns out, it was not in perfectly good shape. It looked so-so from the outside, but the inside was trashed. It smelled like pot. Somebody tore off the interior lights. They threw the console, my little plastic console with my cup holder in the back. I mean, nothing was destroyed. They just took it apart. The only thing that was really damaged was the trunk lid. One of the lenses for the tail lights, just assorted stuff that one thing by itself wouldn't have been that big of a deal, but in the totality of it all, the car needed repairs. So it was an all-day affair due to miscommunication regarding tow trucks coming to pick us up. My mechanic, Mitch, had to finally grab us. He also drives tow trucks from Oakdale almost 8 hours later. We had left home that morning at 10:40 a.m. and didn't get home until 10-something in the evening with the car towed and dropped off in my driveway. So that was a really frustrating day for the both of us. Monday, December 11th, the insurance company sent an appraiser out to inspect the damage and determine how much it would cost to fix it or whether it would be a total loss. So he looked it over and determined it would be fixable for a given price. And he made arrangements to have it towed to my insurance-approved body shop of my choice in Modesto. Well, let's just say he gave me about 3 choices and I had, which wasn't much to choose from. Tuesday, December 12th, the car was towed to the body shop where it was held until I could inspect it the next day with the shop coordinator. So the next day, Wednesday, December 13th, I think, I came to inspect the car and the person warned me that they probably wouldn't be able to find all the parts for it. Just great. This is kind of where all my problems began. Wednesday, December 20th, about 8 days later, the first shop officially said finally that the car was not repairable by them. And while arranging for towing to the second shop, I was told I had 1 day to remove the car from the first shop. a real wait, and then hurry up sort of deal. I said, I got to coordinate things with my girlfriend getting off work and us having 2 cars. I mean, can you be a little more reasonable? No, we will not keep it past Thursday. Friday, we're towing the car to an impound yard. I'm like, you guys are just so unreasonable. You couldn't even work with me with the car, and now you can't even work with me getting it out of your shop. Now, let me back away from all this and say, meanwhile, through all this, around mid-December, I had to return the rental Chevy Malibu, the one I had showed you in, the gray one I had showed you in the last video. And this forced me to use the Cadillac in the rain when I was driving to rehearsals and what have you, for it was now my only usable car. So that car got wet on the inside, had to be dried out with a hairdryer at one point. Thursday, December 21st, the car was towed from the first to the second body shop, who said the second body shop said they were very certain they'd be able to repair the car. Okay, good news. I'm feeling kind of good about this finally. All good things in life, that too shall pass, right? So Saturday, December 23rd, my parents came for the weekend for Christmas, and my dad loaned me his car for the time being until I figured out what would be done with the Crown. Now, 5 days later, Thursday, December 28th, as if things couldn't get any worse, I got a call from the second shop saying, sorry, we tried our best, but we won't be able to fix it either. It will probably be a total loss. Thanks, guys. 2 places had the car that whole time. Well, better than it sitting in my driveway, I suppose. They asked if I wanted it towed back to my house at this point. I was sick of the towing fiascos. Every time I had a car towed, I had to send the receipt to my insurance company to get the reimbursement. I didn't want to do that anymore. So Saturday, December 30th, I took my chances and drove it home from Modesto to Oakdale without license plates. Nothing happened. This very sad thing. So the first chance I drove the car since all this went down, and it drove perfectly. Engine was fine. Transmission was fine. They just joyrode in the car. But there were just too many broken items, and they had tried to pry open the trunk. And so it was all out of whack. And I didn't like how they had damaged the interior. So as well as the car drove, it was sad that it had to be totaled, but I didn't want to deal with it. Now fast forward to the following Friday, 6 days later, Friday, January 5th, New Year, 2024. The same appraiser showed up a second time, the same one from December 11th, to look over the Crown once again. Why did he have to reevaluate it? I don't know. And determine if totaling it out was appropriate and what the value would be. It turned out to be a total loss, and a fair and reasonable sum was quoted. This was enough to cover the cost of replacing the Crown with a used car I had had my eye on for a week or so. Kind of a separate thought away from the Crown. Saturday, January 6th, I drove down with Shelley to look at and test drive a burgundy-colored 2011 Honda Civic V6. I knew Hondas were reliable. I knew I wanted something that still had a little power and a little get up and go, but it didn't have to be a V8. After the 2010s, most cars made weren't V8s anymore. In fact, it's very hard to find V6s, especially amongst Japanese imports. Most of them are 4 cylinders with turbos or supercharges. I liked the car. I bought it and brought it home that evening. Monday, January 8th, arrangements were made. Well, actually, before that, arrangements were made with Copart to come pick up the Crown Vic and tow it away. And on Monday, January 8th, Copart came by, and this is the final scene of the car being backed up. The Copart guy backed the car out of the driveway and was going to put it on the flatbed tow truck, and that was the last I saw of it. It was to be sold at an auction up in Sacramento, so at least they weren't going to total it out and crush it. They totaled it out, salvage title, and hopefully somebody else who can clean it up better than I could is willing to take it as is. It's still a well-driving car. It just looks a little rough now. Saturday, January 13th, we drove to my parents for the weekend to return my dad's Jaguar. In conclusion, after almost 2 months of this BS, the issue is finally over. We now have security cameras over the garage door. I have an alarm system and a GPS tracker in my new used Honda Accord. And for the most part, life is good again. And so that catches you up on everything that had happened between November 21st and the middle of January. I hope to not have to go through this again because this was my second car stolen. I had a white Honda Civic that was stolen in September of 2012. So that's 2 times for me now. I wouldn't mind if it never happened again. I'm John O'Flaherty, the B3 Burner, saying goodbye, and I'll see you next time.